Hi, I'm Sam Diss, Head of Content at Mundial. I'm here with Original Penguin as part of their new original series, and they've asked me to answer a couple of questions, so let's get started. How has football enabled you to be an original? I think I don't have a lot of other hobbies, I think. So it's really given me a fantastic opportunity to be able to create things that I really love, and in a environment that like really supports creative thinking and being able to actually just do stuff that you actually really enjoy. And like it's really special. There's not many jobs that do that, and I mean I'm like, I get told a lot that this isn't a real job, and it never feels like it. I mean, you come in every single day, get to make like amazing films and magazines about football, and that's a pretty good job to me, I think. How did Mundial come about? It started in 2014. Dan and Seb were the original founders, and it started as a one-off for the World Cup in 2014 in Brazil, and that did so well that they decided they had to do a second one, which I guess they called Issue 1, and I was lucky enough to join in then. And from then I've been commissioning editor and working on commissioning features, working with new writers. We work with a lot of new writers, people who are just good at telling stories and making them into proper features writers, and telling features that mean a lot to us and that will mean a lot to fans of football, and we felt that we're being underserved. A lot of stories that get overlooked by a lot of publications, and being able to really drill down into what makes football special. And I mean, we're coming up to our 17th issue, and I can't believe it's been that long, really. Been so lucky to be able to do it 4 times every year. I'd do it every day if I could and it didn't kill me. But yeah, I mean, hopefully we'll do 170 of them, but like 17 so far is not bad going. Give us an insight into football lifestyle. Football lifestyle is a weird one because, I mean, especially in this country, football, whether you like it or not, just colours so much of modern culture, popular culture, like society at large. It seems to be the thing that dominates TV coverage, dominates news coverage. It's the thing that you arrange your entire social life around. You go to the pub at certain times because there's games on. You talk to your friends more at certain times. You make sure that you don't have anything going on so you can squirrel yourself away in front of the TV if you can't get to the game. Football influences fashion and music and what beer you drink and where you go and the films you like and the books you read. They haven't even got to be about football. This isn't even about football shirts. It's not about books about football, anything like that, because there's an attitude to it. And what's great about football is that you've got 22 people on a pitch, and each one of them can have a distinct personality, but it's more than that, because each team can represent something and part of that lifestyle. And each team has an attitude and its own personality, and with that is like a wealth of history. Some of these teams have like 100 years of history and of culture, and the culture around it becomes such a strong element of what draws people in, that for me especially, sometimes that's more important than what happens in football. There's been times in my life when I've not been going to football that often, as in like actually in the stadium, and I still feel that sort of like very special connection to the game, because it has just been such an important part of who I am as a person and my interests and the things that I feel confident in and the things that I feel confident about talking about come a lot of it from football. And I mean, like when you're a young man growing up as well, there's not that many, outside of school, there's not that many places to go and make new mates. You join a football team and you meet people around that, or you go to matches and you meet people around that. And as you get older, you join five-a-side teams at work. You start talking about football in the office and stuff like that, and it just becomes like this great leveler that it just becomes so much more, and it really does become part of the lifestyle. And I think that until I started working at Mundial, I think it was one of those things I didn't really try and intellectualize. It was just something that was just like in our heads, and it's not just in my head, it's in the head of millions of people all around the world. But it wasn't until I started here that I really sort of started thinking about it, and I was like, wow, that's like more than I give it credit for. Is finding new methods to push boundaries essential to Mundial's development? I think it's essential to development in general. I think that if you keep doing the same thing again and again, people get bored of it. You get bored of it yourself. I think that's where new ideas come from, is by doing things that are out of your comfort zone. And I think for us, I mean, it's weird because print is about the most traditional medium in what we do, in storytelling, in journalism. And it was seen as quite, like, a reasonably radical thing to be making a print magazine at a time that we were doing it. I mean, magazines were shutting all over the place. So even just doing that, even just going back to such a traditional medium, felt like such a radical thing to be doing. That felt like pushing a boundary, which is weird to say, is because that's going backwards. But like since then, we've had to just almost like start that cycle again in an accelerated way. Making sure that we have the same level of storytelling that goes across everything, and it goes across Instagram and Twitter and Twitch now. Like you can play as a FIFA and you can have that sort of interaction with us, and you need to be across all mediums. You need to be across so many different platforms, and each one has its own nuances and these ways of telling these stories. I think that they're all equally important, really, because there's an almost infinite amount of ways that people can access your brand and your product and you as a person, or you, like, the things that you're into. So you need to give people as many opportunities to do that as possible, and there's no better way than going out and trying and doing new things. Not all of them will work, and there's been plenty of times when we've tried to do things that haven't really worked. But I think we've had far more wins than we have losses at this point. And yeah, I mean, I'm not taking up a tally of each one yet, but hopefully it doesn't come to that. What's the key to keeping print alive? I think it's genuinely just doing it for the love of it. It's not for, and that seems like quite like a trite or cliched thing to say, but like, you don't get into magazines, certainly not in this day, to make loads of money. You do it because it's something that lasts. When us as a generation are used to very disposable content, we create a magazine that feels like you want to keep hold of it. You're asking people to pay hard-earned money for something that lots of people can get for free. There's lots of great writing on the internet, so you have to give someone a real reason to spend money on a piece of paper, or 132 pieces of paper stapled together, or glued, I think we're glued. 132 pieces of paper that have some writing on it, and with like pretty pictures and all that. You need something that people are going to want to keep. And I think that for too long it was seen as sort of a given that people would buy newspapers and people would buy magazines. And I think it's only just coming back to people getting into it as a hobby and as a passion. And I think that that's starting to come back round again now, because people are buying magazines. I buy a lot of magazines. The people that work here buy a lot of magazines. It's why we do it, because that's something that we love. And I hope, I mean, hope against hope, that like print will always be there, because it's something that's very special to me, and it's yeah, it's something that I like keeping around me forever. My favourite ground for an away day in England, I think it's got to be Anfield. As a West Ham fan, we don't have that much luck usually against Liverpool, but like, I think that the Northwest is just something very special about it in terms of its connection to football culture and football fan culture, and just creating fantastic teams. And Liverpool, one of those where the atmosphere speaks for itself, and the noise and passion that's created around it, and it's just a beautiful looking stadium as well. I mean, it's right in the middle of town. You're just walking through streets of terraced houses, and all of a sudden you just see it like bang, just like pop up, like almost out of nowhere. And as an away fan, sometimes you go to these grounds and you feel like a sense of tension or wariness, and all I felt was sort of awe. And it goes beyond whether or not you win or lose. Obviously, I'd rather win, but being a West Ham fan, don't really take that for granted. But like getting a chance to see us play at Anfield, it was something that was incredibly special to me. Best dressed footballer of all time is a tough one, because most footballers dress quite badly. But like, I think if you look at someone like Eric Cantona, I think the key to it is just having that again, it comes down to an attitude, it comes down to a personality. I think that's what a sense of style is. And you talk about originals, that man was like a full original when it comes to Premier League football. No one was like him. He just changed football on and off the pitch. Not always in the right reasons, but he was just someone who just had like really innate, natural sense of style, whether it was that sort of like classic French, sort of like quite sharp, or sometimes he'd just like turn up in like a roll neck jumper or whatever. It was just like these are things that are not that out there. They're not like things where you will like he was doing things that like no one had ever thought of. But he just did them in a way that felt so casual and that felt so natural to him that the clothes just fit him perfectly. Well, obviously they would do, being a professional athlete. That I think that is something that can get taken for granted. I think that people try hard a lot of times, and I think that you want to like really look good. I think it just comes down to like being comfortable in yourself, and then just wearing whatever you want. When there's few people that have done whatever they want as often as they want as Eric Cantona. Tell us about a typical day when you're in London and are looking to get the next issue of Mundial together. What is the plan of attack? That's a tough one, because I mean, putting together an issue of a magazine it comes out once every 3 months, but each one is a year in gestation, just like a constant battle. Each story is weeks of just thinking about it before you pitch it, before you work out the budgeting and the planning and the design of it. That's before you write it, that's before you book anything, that's before you go there, meet anyone, interview it, get it transcribed, all that stuff. I think the first thing that we do is just sit down and go, what haven't we done? What do we care about? What are the stories that need telling and why? Because there's plenty of great football stories and loads of them have been told already. Do they need telling again? Some of them do. Some of them haven't been told in the way that we feel have been done justice. Some of them deserve retelling because it's a new audience, and because I think a lot of the people that read our magazine and that read us online as well, I think that they've probably come to football writing quite late. They're not people that have been reading magazines for a long time, and we're very proud of the fact that we've got like a lot of people reading football journalism where they wouldn't do usually, because there's a lot of bad stuff around, a lot of fantastic stuff as well, and we hope to be representing that latter group. And I think it just comes down to like it will usually just be a meeting called, usually by Owen, our features editor. Right, we're all going to the pub, bring some ideas, and usually they are just like very broad strokes, broad themes, countries that we want to go to, random words, topics. Sometimes they'll be as like minute and detailed as a specific story, one that you've found or a person you've met, or a tiny little nib of a story that you've read elsewhere that you wanted to expand upon. And sometimes there's something that's really personal to you, you haven't quite got a handle on yet. I want to write about, say, I don't know, the academy system and what that does to kids who don't quite make it. That might be one thing, but then also you might just be like, I want to write about what football means to kids and their parents or whatever, or what it means to support a team when you know that team's no good. Those are just broad strokes, and we sit there and we work out which ones need telling and why, which ones we can tell in a way that no one else can. And I think it all comes back down to really having a positive influence on the reader, because it's the subtitle of the magazine is remind you why you love football, and everything that you read in the magazine, everything that we do on social media, on everything, should always come back to that key bit of messaging, because football as a game has become so stressed out and causes people so much grief that you'd be hard pressed sometimes to think that there's much to enjoy about the game, but no one would watch it if they didn't love it, and we all absolutely love it. So it's always making sure that everything comes back to that, and that making sure that love really comes through. How does Mundial allow you to express yourself? I mean, I'm very, very lucky that I work with people who are brilliantly talented and also incredibly trusting in each other's talents. And I think that that's something that you don't get very often in very many places. So sometimes, I mean, you have to kind of go, when you pitch ideas and you kind of go, well, I mean, I know you don't really, this doesn't really sound like much, but trust me a little bit. it'll get there eventually. It might take a little bit of work to convince people, but I think when people really throw their weight behind something, we know that everyone who works with us, that's freelancers as well, the people that are contributor-based, photographers, illustrators, they really care about something. We know that they're going to do something fantastic. And so that's, I mean, like, for me, I'm very lucky that I've been given the leeway to write about pretty much whatever I want. I mean, I'm a commission editor, so like you can commission yourself, but like it's more than that. Working with Owen as, again, the features editor, really working out what it is that you want to do and finding the best way to express that is a very difficult thing, and it doesn't always come off. There's been some stories and some things I've worked on where I look back and I go, I could have done that better. But there's been a lot of things where a chance has been taken by me diving into something and I don't really know what it is, but knowing that there's something special in there and I just have to dig around and find out what, and by other people. Whether that's a financial outlay, traveling to Brazil to cover five-a-side football, as I've been very lucky to do, or it's just sort of like the time as well, because we're a small company and time is money, and we've all got loads of stuff on, so each thing has to really matter. So I think that, I mean, I've been given about as much opportunity to express myself as anyone is ever likely to be given, and for that I'm incredibly grateful. So yeah, I've been Sam Diss for Mundial, and this has been the original Penguin, new original series, and thanks for watching.